Now we're going to be working on the B42. This is a cover stitch and chain stitch machine only. Now you can see we paired these two machines. We're setting them next to each other because they are the perfect pair to work together if you are going to be doing any kind of garment sewing and you're wanting to do both the overlock stitching for sewing your garment together, and then for hemming you can use the B42. So the B42 is designed to do several different types of stitches. One stitch that we have right here, which is the triple cover stitch. So you're going to see that there are 3 lines of needle stitching that are here. And then on the back side, it's going to cover the edge of the hem edge, and it gives you kind of a decorative look to your stitch. So if you even take a look at the skirt that I have on, you're going to see that there is a decorative stitch that I used on this fabric. The way that I did that is I stitched it upside down. So on the other side are the 3 lines of stitching that you see on the machine currently. Now, the way that this is set up, again, you notice that it has 4 threads, just like our other machine has. However, it's going to do a completely different stitch because of the way that the machine itself is designed. And inside, you'll notice that there is a flat sewing area that we work with. Because we don't have the formation of the stitch made in the same way, the stitching and the formation of the stitch all takes place below the sewing surface. And you'll see that again you have a color-coded threading path. All of your accessories are going to be still stored right here on the front of your machine. You do have differential feed, just as we had on the other machine also. You have stitch length that's going to be adjusted on the side. So the main difference again is going to be how that stitch is going to be formed, and now you can sew in the middle of your piece of fabric. Also, unlike the serger stitch, you don't want to sew off of your fabric. So what I like to do is I will fold my hem up or fold it in place. Then I will slide it under the presser foot to kind of guide, because there are some very nice guides that are here on the table of the machine. And I can guide where my hem edge is going to be. Then I'm simply going to flip this over, and I'm going to use the guide that's on the table of the machine that I determined earlier and position the edge of my fabric there. Now all I have to do is simply stitch across the edge of my fabric. Okay, now I'm going to come to the end of my fabric and I'm going to show you how we're going to get off of this fabric. All right, at the end we want to make sure our needles are in the highest position, and you're going to see that you are using I'm using 3 needles here. So then I'm simply going to take, and I've already taken out my little Allen wrench. You can use a lock stitching tool as well. You'll raise your presser foot and you're going to take the tool, sliding it underneath your presser foot, pull the thread forward, clip those threads and slide it out. What that will do also now is lock your stitches and keep the stitches locked in place so that they're not going to pull out of the edge or at the end of your fabric. Now similarly to the way we worked with our other machines, again we have these different needle positions, and the different needle positions will give you the different stitches. So if I wanted to stitch with simply a wide cover stitch, all I would need to do is loosen the center needle. And one thing that you're going to notice in here also, and it's really convenient and helpful, is that I can see the top of my needle right above the screw. So that's going to assure me that my needle is in the highest position. And on any serger, you always want to make sure that your needles are in the very highest position. So now I've just simply taken out that center needle, and I am going to remove the thread from the machine. And I am going to rethread that left needle because when I pulled that thread out, but I don't have to actually rethread or move my threads in any way or adjust the stitch. All I have to do is take the needles in and out to create the different stitches that I'm wanting. Okay, now when I'm ready to stitch the other stitch, I can again simply take my fabric, and if I'm going to be sewing this in around a hem, or I'm going to be going around an item, I like to bring and stitch on the inside of that hem. So simply lower the fabric, lower the presser foot and stitch. Again, at the end, just raise your presser foot, slide the stitches out, cut those threads, and pull. And you end up with, this time, a wide cover stitch with just 2 lines of stitching. You can also move the needles closer together, and you can achieve just a narrow cover stitch where the needles and the stitching is much closer together. The last stitch that I'm going to show you here is going to be a chain stitch. Now this chain stitch you can use in any one of the needle positions. And again, depending on if you're going to be stitching, this is where you are wanting to stitch a straight line of stitching, simply by stitching the seams together. I'm going to stitch it on this same piece of fabric that we did the overlock stitch so you can see the difference. Now when we stitch the overlock stitch, it would trim it away. Here I can simply stitch on the fabric and not trim anything away. And sew just like I sew on my sewing machine. Okay. At the end, raise that foot, lock the stitch to pulling the thread out. Or by raising your presser foot, you do end up with a stitch that you can just simply pull the stitch out. But here you can see that you have a straight stitch capability, and this was the overlock using the B44, and how these two can pair together really very easily. And by creating that cover stitch, you're going to be able to hem your garments or hem items very quickly and easily, very professionally, and it still gives you a very flexible stitch.